Okay, boys, it's week 2, the review for Thick Love. Hopefully, we will get a better video this time than we got last week. But let's go ahead and get going. So, no real big shocks in week 2. Obviously, Mad Men beat Jamie's Jinx. But I will say this much: Jamie's got some players, and his team is just getting better with LaShore coming on board. I think it's just a matter of time before he takes that job in Detroit. And Torrey Smith is going to get it turned around. So Jamie has hope. And I'll tell you, I hate it for you guys that are catching Jamie in the future, because he's going to be all right. I guess continuing forward with other teams that made it to 2-0, Jason got almost 60 points from the Texans' backfield, so it's possible the Fred Jackson injury, in addition to benefiting Jamie may have benefited Jason as well, because now he's playing Ben Tate and Arian Foster, and it looks like he's going to be rewarded for it. Call it luck, call it what you will, but he smashed Sean in the Sexy Jutsu by 75 points. Chuck squeaked out in the game of the week this week. Chuck entered the game down 35 points to Dustin on Monday Night Football. Chuck had Roddy White and Willis McGahee. And Dustin had Michael Turner. Michael Turner got an early touchdown, went up almost 40 points for Dustin. And you would think at that point, Dustin's got it. But McGahee had a huge game. Roddy White had a huge game. They combined for, 57 points. And the next thing you know, Dustin is 0-2 after a loss last week to Butch. So, a team that a lot of people probably were thinking was going to be a good bet for the playoffs, Dustin, the Bayou Assassins, are now 0-2. And things aren't necessarily looking good with Welker and Michael Turner. So, we'll see how that ends up unfolding. In the other 2 games this week, Playing for Keeps put up a big number, but fell just short of yours truly for the weekly high score. And Kelly really gave him a run, but Shiva could not outlast Playing for Keeps, and Kelly ended up dropping out into Adam, and Kelly drops now to 0-2. So what we're looking at is heading into the last game of the week between Butch, poor Butch, and Rob, the league rookie. We're looking at 3 0-2 teams, 3 2-0 teams, and the rest of the leagues at 1-1 after Rob pretty much handily dismissed Butch this week. Rob had great performances from his running backs, and really that's all he needed, because Butch's team is a mash unit. Butch earns the ouch of the week for not just Matt Forte, what looks like he's going to be out for a couple of weeks with his ankle, but Jeremy Macklin has a bruised hip on top of a hip pointer, and Fred Davis looks like he has a concussion and will probably be missing time as well. So things are not looking good for the Butcher all of a sudden, especially when you consider this week's dud of the week, and really you can call him the dud of the season so far. Chris Johnson, CJ 2K formerly, CJ 1K last season, and CJ, how about CJ 19 carries for 21 yards K this season so far, because that's what he really seriously has. 19 carries for 21 yards for a guy that 3 years ago was over 2,000 yards rushing. I know, Butch, you got to be concerned because he's just not the same player, and you've turned down a lot of offers for him, and now you may not be able to recoup 50% of his value at this point. So you probably just best off riding him out. But moving forward, I mentioned the game between Chuck and Dustin earlier, and Dustin draws the Splinter of the week for not starting Brent Selleck at flex. Ordinarily, I'm not going to bust somebody's balls for not starting a tight end at flex because it's not something I generally like to do. But with Randy Moss on a pretty strict snap count limit and Selleck starting off like a house on fire, you can make a case that Dustin really gave that game away by leaving Selleck's 23.7 points on the bench while Moss only scored 2.4 or whatever. That definitely was the difference in the game. The rookie of the week this week would have been RG3 had Jamie started him, but you can't fault him for not starting him, considering he had Matt Ryan coming off of a 37-point game or whatever last week. But RG3 did. He put up 37 points himself this week. The real rookie of the week was Trent Richardson, 34.5 points for Rob. Rob had him stuck with him. Kudos to you, Snake. And it looks like you do have at least solid running backs to go with Tom Brady. You got a little bit of outs this week too with Aaron Hernandez. It looks like he's going to be out for 4 weeks at least. So I guess lastly, the stud of the week was also on the burgundy and gold. Reggie Bush had 38.7 points to barely outpace Hakeem Nicks, who had 37.9 points for yours truly. But, so congratulations. It was a big week for Rob getting his first victory, having the stud of the week, rookie of the week. Things are looking pretty good if Tom Brady can get it going, and if you can get the production from Dennis Pitta that I know you're hoping for in place of Aaron Hernandez. And that leads me to the transactions from last night. The big story would be, if there's a story really on the transaction report, is that Chuck dropped $43 this week on the combination of Andre Brown, Daryl Richardson, the Packers defense, and Justin Tucker from Baltimore, the kicker. He looks awesome. So it's not $42 on Kevin Ogletree. Chuck spread his money around and really probably spent a little more wisely. But like we said, Snake is a rookie and he is in a learning process right now. So, and the waiver wire is certainly a part of that. The last thing I'll get to is the cream has really kind of risen to the top. The 3 undefeated teams are probably the 3 teams that were favored most heavily going into the season, myself, Chuck, and Jason, so there's no shock there. The surprise is probably at the bottom, but it's still early. It's 0-2 is nothing. And some big games this week. Myself or Jason, somebody's must go. So one of us is going to lose, and Chuck has Adam, who really, let's face it, with the team that Adam has, his starting lineup, he's a threat to anybody at any time. So Chuck really has to watch his back this week there. But aside from that, I wish everybody good luck going forward. I think the team I'm probably most impressed with is still Jamie, because he's stuck with his plan in the draft, and he executed, and his team is really coming together on the field. So I particularly wish him good luck, because I'd like to see that franchise get up off the bottom. So Anyway, everybody else, just keep plugging, and we'll see you next week for the week 3 review. I'm out.